this video, we'll be covering CFAM sheet 554, Maintenance of Effort for SpEd. Maintenance of effort for special education is a requirement of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA. It's a federal law, and the requirement states that you must spend the same or more amount out of your local and state funds towards special education as you did the prior year. In our report in CFAM, if you'll notice, this amount spent in 2019 is then the target line for 2020. That amount was exceeded. And then we'll see where that target line became the next requirement for 2021. It doesn't look like Augusta met that, but there are ways that you can have explainable exceptions. So maybe they had some high-cost children that graduated or were no longer in their program. That justified them being able to be below that. But then the following year of 2022 matches 21. And then in 23, we're not quite there yet, but we still have more time left. You'll notice in the bottom right, we're pulling fund source of fund 1,000 to the end of the 2,000 range, and then programs 200 through 249, excluding 250, and then 250 through 260. We've based that off of information we found on the special education website. The group that's actually overseeing this and auditing these for schools publishes some notes. So the special education unit, funding and finance and training material, has a link to the special ed finance process guide. This is a 115-page slideshow, which we're only going to show you a couple of slides. They outline that they have a Cognos report that's pulling this same information for prior year. And if you go to the bottom here, this is where we got the information of what codes to pull. These are the codes that they're looking for to see if you're meeting this maintenance of effort. If you're actually doing this work, this is a good guide for how that works and the time frames for all it's due. That's kind of outside of what we're trying to do here today, which is just show an overview of this. Our report is also showing these red lines, which are what are budgeted at that year for this. So the general advice of finance folks out of our office is, where possible, try to keep this as flat as you can. Whenever you code things that come into here, it becomes that next year's target. And so we want to serve kids, we want to do what's right, but we don't want to put things into these codes that are going to give us a higher balance for subsequent years that we'll then have to do the paperwork to caveat out. So if you're buying computers for your special ed teachers and you're needing to meet this requirement, you can code those things within these ranges, and that would be a good way to help meet that requirement. But if you're buying those computers and you're already well over this amount, code that to something differently that's going to allow you to not increase this requirement from year to year, keeping it as flat as possible. Another thing that's brought out often in our trainings is finance person. You can watch this budgetary line, and so you'll notice that if Augusta actually does spend that full budgeted amount, they will then be raising their goalpost or raising their target for fiscal year 24, possibly unnecessarily. The budget doesn't necessarily mean they are going to spend that, but that is something to know and be able to watch over time to be able to see if this is going to become a harder requirement for you to meet in future years, or if it's going to become extra paperwork and caveats you're going to have to write to not meet that target whenever you could avoid it on the front end. This has been Sheet 554, Maintenance of Effort for Special Ed.